So you're with Mark and Diane from Real Estate News and Views, and Innisfil sales aren't faring as bad as the rest of Ontario, but by the looks of it, honestly.
Well, everything's pretty flat, and I just think there's just so much chaos out right in this world right now. You know, um, I've seen lots of pressure put on TIF there to lower rates from political leaders such as Doug Ford last week. I saw, hey, he's going to go over them like a big gorilla, he said, and said, hey, we need to start doing some things. Real estate industry is tanking, and it is tanking, right? It's
It,
just,
it is.
no, we just, it, and we know our business is driven by rates, and we do need to see some rate decreases before some, affordability opens up for some more people.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be, anytime soon in a sense, but I think we'll start to see some things pick up this year. But I'm sure, year over year will be flat, if not down a couple points, and that's just the market is today. So,
Well, the good news is, and I guess, is that in Innisfil, it doesn't seem as bad. I'm going to share the spreadsheet and we'll tell you guys, we'll show you the price ranges and the sales, and the inventory has risen though.
and it's normal, right? This is still a spring market we're in, but it's just not getting the rebound that most people thought we would start to see in a spring market. And, yes, it's price sensitive, but there's a few other things that have rolled in and creeped into the market, and that's this the sentiment and fear of, hey, am I going to have a job when I go to work next week? I
Yeah.
don't know. So,
So when I
it's
do the share, do you want to do the shout out?
yeah, sure. So
Okay.
if you like this inventory. Jeez. If you like this information, definitely hit the subscribe button for more notifications on the Barrie Real Estate market in Simcoe County area. And in our description, the beginning, we have links for home valuation and for buyers to get information updates on properties based on their criteria. Okay, let's take it away. Let's see where we are.
Okay, so last year 65 sale, this year 62, only down 5%.
Yeah, that's that's decent compared to what we saw in Barrie.
Well, look at the numbers every other month.
Right, right.
24, this January actually saw an uptick, but
Yeah,
then February, March was like 45% down.
that's huge.
April 24%, and now we're only at 5.
Yeah, no, that's good. Where are we year to date?
Okay, so year to date, 294 last year, 240 this year. So we're only 18% down. So we're actually, that number is actually creeping down, which is
Yeah,
a good thing as well.
yeah, yeah. No, it's good. No,
So
it's
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 not horrible.
no, it's not horrible. No, I mean better than I
And
thought it was going to be.
well, I know because when you looked at Barrie and, we see the numbers coming out of Toronto, they're horrifying, right? They're a lot worse than this.
Yeah, and it's funny, right? Because we gear everything off bigger markets and stuff. That being Toronto the biggest, but then there's other communities and small other communities, especially in, say Northern Ontario, that are doing okay. But it just seems like this Toronto real estate market and Central Ontario market is taking the brunt of the impact.
Yeah. Well, that's where the higher prices and the more like there's just more jobs, there's more everything here, right?
Yeah,
So we're more industry. So
for
we're
sure.
going to feel it more.
Yep.
So the average price, which we don't like, is okay. Like it ticked up last month, but it's actually higher than the other like January, February, and March.
Right. Right. And we know why it ticks up. Again, could be higher sales. Obviously, in April, there were some higher price properties that sold.
Yeah.
But
Well, and
on
you can even get like one $4 million sale that
That's right.
just whacks out everything, right?
Yep.
So the price ranges, here we go. 10 active and 5 to 6, which we know is almost nothing.
Almost nothing. Yeah.
One sale, 6 sales last year, and actually that's an 83% decline.
And don't, it's just, again, like
But
that, it's a small price point and we don't see a lot of inventory there. So
no, and
it's,
and listen, who knows last year at this time, I wish we would have kept track of it, how many actives were even in that range, right?
Oh, I agree. But look at
Because
that.
that's not a range that usually you see a lot anyway.
No, not in that community, you don't.
No. Most of those are probably Sandy Cove, the modular home
Yeah.
park.
100%. If you listen in there, yes.
Yeah. So 6 to 7, 36 actives,
Mhm.
four sold this year, five last year.
Flat.
Basically flat. 89% not selling.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
a
low
very low
number.
range for Innisfil. So the fact that only there was four sales, that's kind of like that's low for
It's low. But then you look at what some in that range too, we see lots of, some townhomes in the Hill area, and no disrespect to some of those areas, but it's just not the best area. We're seeing some of the detached cottages in that range that need extensive work. So it's
700 square feet.
right, they're small. So to me, it's just not a really good indication. If we look at that 6 to 7 range in Barrie, again, there's just so much more product. We're seeing it in the towns and
Hundreds.
hundreds. So it's just a smaller range in that community, and they just don't have the right inventory for what the buyers want.
Yes.
Range.
For 7 to 8, 46 actives, 10 sales, 13 last year.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's 78% not selling.
Right. And there's many reasons why inventory is
Hey,
not selling today. We cover that off week over week. We
hey.
know that there's a lot of sellers that are price anchoring and just saying they're sticking to their price because there's just not a lack of motivation for them to, sell. There's lots of those. Just talk
Lots.
about employment where people are a little scared right now. Am I gonna have a job next week? What's gonna go on the tariffs? Like we're all being affected by this. And you know, I just hope we see some relief in the rates coming soon because I think it will, definitely help the market. It's not going to be the savior of the market.
No, I don't know right now with this whole, all these tariffs and all this stuff. I don't know if anything's going to be a savior. Like if we do see an uptick, it's not going to be this giant, oh my God, everything's changing.
No, no, no. And
So 8 to 9, 49 listings, 10 sold, seven last year. Actually went up 30%
yeah, yeah,
and 80% not selling.
yeah, 20%. And it's normalized. We see the higher ranges, those numbers just get higher.
Well, yeah, and if you notice in Innisfil, like there's barely any listings, really. That's not a huge amount. Not like even up to the million. Nine
Yeah,
to a million, we got 47.
yeah,
And eight sold this year, nine last year, basically
yeah,
even,
yeah.
and 83% not selling. This is where the bulk of the inventory is in Innisfil, which is over a million at 205.
And it must be hard for buyers today to, go in if what it doesn't matter what range, just 9 to 1 million, where there's 47 listings. They're not going looking at 47 listings. They're going to look at
No,
5 or 6. If
yeah,
they don't find what they want, okay, well, no, I'm going to see it. Let's go up the next weekend and see 8 this weekend. So it's
yeah,
just taking some time for days on market for these sellers that are priced properly in a sense and priced for the market today before they get an offer.
yeah.
How long was
And
your, how long for Emerald? How long were you listed before you got an offer?
it was sold in 12 days.
12 days. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So in the over a million, there was 14 sales this year and 22 last year, so 68% down.
Yeah, you know, that's always I don't think last month we're in the 200 range. I think it was 189, but it's that number just seems to never come down.
Well,
Just
you
go.
want to know something too, Mark? So you know when I do the percentage not selling
uh,
and the over $1 million range, last last time was 83% and now it's 93. But part of that is because we got more inventory,
Right.
and obviously that inventory is in that higher range, right? Obviously.
Oh, 100%, 100%, right? It's and most people list in May, right? Weather's good, clean up the properties, get the grass looking green, do some planting, on and on and on,
Yeah.
right? It's it's going to take some time to sell a property today, right? But
Yeah.
it varies like 28 days. I'm sure it's very similar here too. If, the property is priced accordingly for today's market. It's
Actually, you know what I want to check here? Because I have it, which I don't have it on there. So the average days on market in Innisfil is 34,
okay.
and it's 97% of the selling price.
Yeah,
Still, the list of selling price, people are still getting 97%. But
well,
you know what the thing is, Mark, that's also misleading about that is here, I'll stop the share for a sec. The thing that's misleading about that is it doesn't show how many price changes, how many times it's been relisted. So it's saying 90% of the list price is what they got,
yep,
but and I don't know, they might have been listed for a year and changed the price 10 times.
percent. I looked at a property just before jumping on over in Auburn Street. Arda, they got 1,184,000. They tried 1.269 back in Feb. Well, I remember that listing coming up and going, holy cow, they're never going to get that. It's almost 100 grand difference.
Mhm.
Couple price changes, cancel relist, right? And again, there's still an abundance of people that want to test that market, right? Yes, I get it. We all want the highest price of our properties. I'm no different than anybody else, but you know, you got to price that where the market is today, right? Because I really believe you're wasting a lot of time, right?
Well, the thing is, and I mean, you've done it and I've done it for so many years. You realize that first of all, you got to go through that whole process of showing, keeping your house clean, doing all this stuff, and then you end up down at that same number.
I agree.
And a lot of times it's even harder in negotiations because you've been sitting there so long and people are all real lowballing
Yeah,
and they're beating you up.
they're gonna 100%. I'd be no different, right? Neither
Oh,
would
well,
you.
listen, when I'm on the buyer side, what do you say? Oh man, they've been listed for this many days, and they haven't sold and they've lowered the price 3 times. So like, let's try going in lower.
100%. 100%.
Why wouldn't we?
I agree. It's a message that's going out, and we see some, you know, price reductions. Okay, they probably are serious sellers. They just have no idea what's going on in the market, hit that right price for buyers to jump in and take a chance. Once they get the right price right, we see people jumping in,
And you
right?
know what else, Mark?
Oh,
Eventually you have to take something.
if there's some motivation behind you, 100%, right? But to me, it's all about the motivation, what the motivation of that seller today, right? Or that particular client, right? Are they moving? Are they downsizing, upsizing? Have they bought? Are they moving away? So there has to be motivation to go with the price. There has to be a match in my books, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of match things out there right now, right? We've all seen them and we've all heard the stories and the frustrations and the whole bit. But I just don't think anything is going to drive this market to spark up things in a fast way. It's going to take some time before we see traction. But you know what? The numbers aren't that bad in Innisfil
Mark, they're
compared.
not terrible. Yeah.
They're terrible, right? So a little bit better than I thought they were going to be.
Me
So
too.
obviously there's some sales there. So, just remember, folks, just, price it right, price it for the market, be patient with it because it's still going to take some time, but just don't go to that other side and overprice and go, wow, we'll come down. That's just a wrong message, right? Because I hear that a lot, right? Well, I'm open to negotiations, yeah, but when you're priced too high, people go, no. Buyers think the opposite. Ugh, you know what? They're priced 80,000 more than what the market is. They're not going to look at the house. Let's be honest.
Okay,
You
so that's a
know
question I got, and I might send this video to my one listing appointment I went on. um, where she said, well, wouldn't people put in an offer anyway?
No.
And I said, well, no, the problem is they won't even come see it, Mark.
I
And
think
I've had that question over the years. I remember with one listing I had in Aurelia, she said to me, well, I don't understand this. Like, why wouldn't they just come in with a lower offer then?
they
Well,
won't.
because there's so much on the market to choose from. They're not even looking at you.
No, no, no. They're going to go to the better price properties first. If they can't
Yeah.
find something, then you may get them, right? And then if you don't, if you come back, let's just say it gets to that process of doing an offer and submitting it, and of course, the agent is probably going to hopefully going to know where the price should be for that based on comparables. And if they don't get a sign back or they get a sign back at full list, goodbye. It just shut down right away.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
So it's really, you got to really keep, a close ear to it and eye to it that what you're doing, the buyers don't know what the sellers well, we're going to negotiate. Like
Mhm.
your prospect said, but the message on the screen when they're looking at it tells a different story that you're not.
Well, another thing that frustrates me is when agents say to you, when you call and you say, I have a buyer, my buyer's kind of interested
Mhm.
and what are your people thinking? And, we're probably going to come forward with an offer. Oh, we're open to negotiation. There's lots of room there. I've
Oh,
often thought to myself, and I don't say it to them,
yeah,
but then why didn't you price it lower to start?
that's right. That's right.
If you're actually trying to sell it, well, like if you're that open,
Yeah, yeah,
or is that just the agent bullshitting me to try to get me to put something on paper and try to maybe drive me up?
100%. I did it a year and a half ago where they bought it for 8, and I'm going, what do you think? It's not an 8 now. It was a townhouse in Cherry Hill. Does your client understand the market? Yep, they understand everything about it. Don't let that price do it. We're open negotiations. No, they weren't. I wasted a whole evening doing it, going through the offer with the buyer, presenting it, giving it to the agent, getting a sign back, going, we're done. Thanks very much. Take care. There was no back and forth. As soon as we saw the sign back, let's move on. Because
Yeah.
this clearly, yeah, after, it kind of had egg on my face when I'm telling my buyer, going, you know what? The agent said they're negotiating, so let's just see how it goes. Well, it was all crap.
Yeah.
Just to get an offer going in, they weren't serious sellers. So we moved on. But anyway, that's the thing. And then you get bitten once. Are you going to do it again? I hate wasting my time. I'll pick up the phone going, you know what? You're overpriced. Here's where we feel that it is. Would your client be you know, in that range to negotiate something? If it's a yes or a no, even then I go, oh God, well, we'll try, depending, right?
Hmm.
But and that sticker price tells a story, and we're
Well,
hence of moving forward.
it does. It does. And the problem, I think people, especially if, like, we do this every single day, and the agents that we're working with, by and large, are doing that too.
Mhm,
So it is a little bit of a game, right?
mhm,
And when we see certain prices or certain things written on listings, like right away we know,
mhm,
where the
mhm.
average person doesn't. You know what I mean? So when you go to a listing appointment and you're explaining to people kind of how it
Yeah,
works,
yeah.
they don't like, because we do it every day, we got a good feel of exactly kind of what's happening here and what's going to happen.
Well, we do. And at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. So if you're presenting the data, what we're just going over today, and going, hey, 4 have sold in your price range and there's 80 listings. That's not a good sell through. Why aren't they selling? So it opens up a discussion to why. And they need to understand why.
Hmm.
Where and then going through some listings of, and we've seen them on the board all the time. 12 days, you had one sold in 12 days. That's pretty good because it was priced accordingly for the market today.
We just looked at what sold in what it, in the same models, same houses.
That's what you got to do. You got to narrow it down, right? Because, no one wants to, especially buyers, you know, there's so much inventory to go through. I'm sure they feel overwhelmed. You know, they're looking for a lot of guidance from their agents, should be. What should we do here? let's shift through all the stuff that's overpriced or just not our criteria, and let's zone in exactly what we want at the right price and narrow things down. That's what I do. I don't want to show 500 properties in two or three in, a few weeks. I don't want to be doing that, right?
No.
Narrow it down, because why are we going? I say it's overpriced. We've gone through the exercise. It's been listed for 8 months and we have those properties,
Oh, there's
right?
lots.
There's lots. So anyway, I think that's a wrap. I think we covered off some numbers, covered off some insights to what the market's doing, and pricing's important. And now there's things in the economy creeping in, and hopefully things get better. But
And Innisfil isn't as bad as everywhere else. It's not
no,
great, let's be real, but
better than I thought it was going to be.
yeah,
So, not a bad number considering.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Enjoy the day.
See ya.